Hello, my name is Sydney, and today I wanted to show you all my writing notebooks, or rather all of my notebooks. Some of them are writing, some of them are not. Now I feel like I should preface this by saying I'm not much of a hoarder. So like when it comes to notebooks, I have been really pretty good about not just buying a notebook for the sake of buying a notebook, even though I constantly face this dilemma. I really don't want to just have a bunch of endless notebooks that end up piling up and I don't use them. For one, waste of money, and I've really been good about my finances lately, like the last year or so that I've lived here, and I don't want to just like fall off the wagon because of some notebooks, but also because there's a pure sort of excitement and joy, I think, that comes with getting a new notebook and getting to use it right away. So I've trained myself to not buy a notebook unless I know exactly what I'm going to use it for, but also two, if I plan to start using it right away. Let's just get into it. I can't believe I almost forgot the notebook I'm working in right now. Notebook number one, we have here a leather bound notebook with gold leaf tree design and border. It has these embossments here. If you rub it, it sticks out. We've got gold side view here and a gold bookmark. Lots of gold, but I feel like this notebook is very official. Now, I originally bought this notebook to use as one of my story notebooks. Once I finished the first notebook, this was going to be my second one, but I have since changed my mind. This notebook is now going to be used for documenting information about my family, from my family tree to just like anything I know about my different family members. As somebody of my particular complexion, I don't know a whole lot about my family tree past my grandparents and very little about some of my great-grandparents. I have met one of my great-grandparents, but she passed away a few years ago. But all of my other great-grandparents and one of my grandparents I have not met. But just even asking my grandparents like what they know, they don't know a whole lot going upwards because, you know, slavery and all that. But yeah, so I wanted to like collect some information. I've done 23andMe DNA, so I think I also want to put that kind of information in here. And I know that that's not perfect science, but it still just gives me the direction that I didn't have before, and so it's been a really valuable resource. I plan to interview some of my family members, particularly my grandparents and parents, just to have a record that hopefully can be passed down to my grandchildren and my great grandchildren, you know. And it helps that it's leather, so it looks really official. If you didn't know this by now, I like to smell books. Second notebook. So this is a notebook that I featured on this channel probably once or twice before. It says Weapons of Mass Creation. I colored in the pens because this came in black and white, but this is a notebook from Redbubble, and this is my list notebook. Some people like to journal, do journal entries, you know. I'm way too lazy for that, okay? I may call myself a writer, but that's really only in the creative sense. And I guess in the technical writer sense for my job. Instead of writing about my daily habits and stuff, I write about things that I like. I make lists of my favorite movies, my favorite bands, my favorite foods, countries that I think look like things, types of fish that I've tried, things I've done so far in New York. Oh, that's from when I was there 3 years ago. Favorite book characters, countries I've traveled to, just a bunch of like random lists for stuff. I'm almost done with the notebook, although I haven't written in it in a while. When I first got this notebook, I filled up the pages like so quickly, but then you know how sometimes you kind of burn out or you lose interest in something and then it just kind of fizzles out and it just sits there unused. But I love this notebook. I love referring to it, especially since my memory sucks so much. I can't remember what my favorite movies are all the time, so I like to write them down. And I just like lists in general. I think they're fun. I've let very few people actually hold this notebook in their hands and see it with their own eyes and read through the pages. So if I ever bestow that honor upon you, you should be honored. Third notebook, Sydney's Crossword Lists. So this is a notebook that I bought really recently. I think this is actually the last notebook or second to last notebook that I bought. It smells great. It smells like new furniture. I like to do these lists that are kind of like crossword puzzles, and I make them up. It's very similar to this notebook in that I do lists of things that are relevant to me. So like, for example, well, I have a list of countries that I've been to. Let's see how well you can see this. You can kind of see, if you look crossword and diagonal, you can actually see like that these are words, countries that I've been to. Some of them may not be countries, some of them are like islands or just like sort of standalone locations. I really like this list because it provides a nice distraction. I like to do things with my hands almost all the time. Even if I'm just sitting watching TV, if I'm having a conversation with somebody, I always feel like the need to do something with my hands. And so this is a great way to help me do that. And also, like, if I'm in a class and maybe I would otherwise be falling asleep, then this is a good way for me to kind of keep my interest up, kind of like doodling. Like some people like to doodle to keep their focus going. And I like to do that as well, but I also like to write my crossword list. It's great fun. I like puzzles in general, so that kind of explains that. And sort of going off of that note, this is my agenda from last year. And the reason I'm putting it in this video is because it has extra pages in here that you can use like a notebook, and so I've done that. I also have written down some story ideas in here when I didn't have my other notebook around. And I also wrote a letter in here to myself for when I turned 25. I wrote this on my 24th birthday to myself, just kind of like how I was feeling and whatnot on that particular day. So there's happy and sad things in that letter, but I can't read it until I turn 25. So now we're moving on to a brand new category in notebooks, okay? These notebooks were kind of miscellaneous about me type notebooks. Now we're moving into my creative writing notebooks. All right, so notebook number 1, Be Wild. Cliche notebook from Target, but isn't it pretty? So this is my kind of general writing notebook. I have not done a whole lot in here, mainly because I either often forget that it's there or I don't have it when I might need it. So this is my, like I said, general writing notebook. I did write quite a bit in here when I was in college. I had a creative writing nonfiction class that I was taking where we had to bring a notebook to write in for different prompts that she would give us. And I also was in a creative writing club that semester, and so they had prompts there as well, and so this is where I would write some of those. I've also written like certain song lyrics that I like, random angsty poetry that I was feeling in the moment to write. I've also written some things from my particular series when I didn't have my other notebooks around, and just random anecdotes. I think I read a few of them to you in one of my videos. Was it writing lessons from talking to myself? I can link that video down below if you're interested. And I read a couple of anecdotes that I'd written in there. They're really random, but you know, so was me. All right, now we're moving on to my Project Pitchfork notebooks, and I have 2. So this is my first Project Pitchfork notebook. You'll notice here it says Ideas and Scene Planning Notebook. Now that was my original intention for how I was going to use this notebook, but then I quickly decided that this was going to be specifically for Pitchfork, because ideas and scene planning is pretty like broad and vague, and I didn't really know at the time what that would entail, but it very easily became Pitchfork notebook. Now I wrote the bulk of the stuff in this notebook when I was writing my first full draft of Pitchfork, which was from Thanksgiving 2016 all the way through June 1st is when I finished the draft of 2017, which was like a week after I graduated college. I was spending time with my dad and my step family for 6 weeks, and so while I was there I did a lot of like I wrote like 40 something thousand words just in like the first month that I was there with them, and I really got in the habit of going straight to this notebook whenever I had any ideas to work through. I've also got these colorful tabs, as you can see, and they are color coordinated. Every page is not tabbed, but just the ones that I kept finding myself trying to find. So once I finished this notebook, I went into this notebook. Now, I originally bought this notebook thinking it could go for either Stormcloud or Pitchfork, because the color scheme reminds me more of Pitchfork, but just the elements of it, like the sun and the kind of space cosmic theme, reminds me more of Stormcloud. But I finished Pitchfork first, and I thought this was more relevant to that, and so that's what I've been using it for, my second notebook for Pitchfork. I'm not too far into it. Now we are down to 2 notebooks left. Oh, I forgot to show you. On my first Pitchfork notebook, I've got this mermaid keychain because I love mermaids, but also my dad gave that to me. And so I just hang it off of here because hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Alright, we're down to our final 2 notebooks, and they are both for Stormcloud. Now you may have seen these quite a bit in my last few videos because, well, I've been working on Stormcloud for a little bit of a while now, the last couple months or so. So this first one, as you can see, says Editing Notebook, which again, same story as my last notebook, that this is not what that notebook is for. This notebook is strictly for Stormcloud. And I started this notebook on August 24th, 2016, which is right after I had finished my first ever complete novel draft, which happened to be for an earlier draft of Stormcloud. It's changed quite a bit since then, the story has. And I only just finished this notebook like a week ago or something, if that. July 16th, so almost exactly 3 years later. So when I first finished the first draft of Stormcloud, I jumped immediately into editing the story, which was not a good idea. But again, it was my first time ever finishing a draft. I didn't know what to do. I was flailing in foreign waters. So I jumped right into editing, and one of the ways that I did that was that I had my computer read the story to me out loud, and I would just listen and take notes as the story went along. And that's what I was doing a lot of in the beginning of this notebook. But I've also done a lot of the same similar things. Writing in this notebook has gotten me to kind of figure out what it is I want out of a writing notebook, and how it is that I can differentiate my writing notebooks from all my notes on my computer, such as OneNote and Evernote. I don't want to just have the same type of notes going into 3 different places. That doesn't really make sense to me. So I figured out that anything for me that goes in OneNote is going to be like concrete story Bible information, and maybe some ideas, but it just kind of depends. Evernote's kind of like notes on the go. If I'm out and about and I don't have my computer with me and I don't have any of these notebooks with me, I just pop the idea into Evernote. I did that just today when I was at a restaurant eating pizza. I really want to get in the habit of using notebooks more. What I want to get out of a notebook is I want to use it for thinking through ideas. I find myself that every time I kind of have an issue or a question that's unresolved or that I can't figure out in the story, like right now, it's good for me to kind of think through the idea. So I just sort of freehand write, no restrictions, no idea is bad, stream of conscious scribbles, and it's been really helpful for me to have a concrete way of doing that, because I could, like, for example, talk it through with somebody, or I could talk it out loud to my, you know, my apartment wall. But it's good to have these ideas concretely, so that way I can always refer back to them if I need to. Yeah, so that's what that's for. And my newest addition, this notebook, which I just bought not too long ago. It was sitting around for a while waiting for me to finish that notebook, and I only, like I said, just did like a week ago. So this notebook is a continuation of Project Stormcloud. It's my second Project Stormcloud notebook, and so I'm in the middle of a revision for Stormcloud right now, and you'll see this more in my Camp NaNoWriMo vlogs, where I talk a lot more about what I'm doing in these notebooks. I'm restructuring the plot and trying to weave certain plots together so that they correlate with each other a lot more, as opposed to being completely separate plots. And so a lot of what I'm doing in this notebook is basically trying to figure that out. Everything from just like writing down like ideas, like I said, brainstorming, stream of conscious thoughts, asking questions that I still have about the story, anything that doesn't make sense to me about the story. Or for example, I have a couple of pages that are like clues about certain things in the story, like just one place for me to kind of look through all the clues, because I do have a mystery going on in Stormcloud, and so I wanted to, in an effort to make this mystery like a good mystery, I want to make sure I know what all the clues are that I've left behind, maybe what clues I need to add, if any, and like where those clues happen and whether or not they should happen. So that's what I'm working with in this notebook now. Oh, I tried to do a really dramatic close and that didn't work. Alright folks, that's all that I have for you today. I feel like I'm doing a book haul. Yeah, these are all my notebooks, all 9 of them. And yeah, I love them. Down below, I'd like to know if you're a writer or creative or whatever, if you've got notebooks, maybe what you use them for. If you're like a notebook hoarder, because I know a lot of writers are notebook hoarders, which I totally get it. I totally get it. But I can't be that person. As much as I might want to be. Like I said, I'm linking a couple of videos down below. Writing lessons from talking to myself, and also my Camp NaNoWriMo vlogs. Actually, I'll just link my Camp NaNoWriMo playlist, She-Nanogans, because I thought that was clever. I thought that was real clever. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Give this video a like, hit subscribe, and I will see you next time. Toodaloo.